Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call this special meeting of the Renfrew County Housing Corporation to order at 1:30 p.m. As we gather this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Wendy, has roll call been taken?
Yes, Mr. Chair, roll has been taken.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? I see none, so then we will move on to the purpose of the meeting. And Director Lapine, if you're there, Could you please, thank you. Could you please present the report?
Thank you, Chair, and welcome members of Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors. Nice to see you all again. Didn't think we'd be meeting again this soon, but I do have something that I want to bring forward to you, and it's a resolution under item number 1, which is affordable, supportive housing in Renfrew County. And may I read the recommendation, Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors authorizes the County of Renfrew to develop new housing on lands located on Lee Street at Douglas Street in Pembroke, Ontario, which is currently owned by Renfrew County Housing Corporation, and further that the Chief Operating Officer be authorized by the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors to execute all documents related to this authorization, and further that the Community Services Committee be advised. So a little bit about background. The County of Renfrew, as you know, is eligible for funding from the Province of Ontario to build affordable supportive housing in Renfrew County within the catchment area. It is our intention to build a complex that will house a minimum of 6 two-bedroom housing units on the Renfrew County Housing property located on Lee Street and Douglas Street in Pembroke, Ontario. The expectation is that these will be built by March 31st, 2023. And we believe that by housing this complex on Renfrew County Housing Corporation, where there currently is rent-geared income housing, this property will extend the continuum of community housing. So our goal is to build a structure through a design build that will have a minimum of 6 two-bedroom units that will be fully accessible and will accommodate both seniors and disabled adults. These new units will fit the criteria for affordable and supportive housing with space to accommodate community support services so the tenants can easily have access to the same supports as tenants located within Renfrew County Housing. So this would mean that this complex would have built within alongside units, another unit that would have office space and potential kitchen space so that things like meals on wheels or meal preparation or supports such as PSW, public health, and other supports can come to the housing complex and save people having to go out for these services, which is fitting some of the definition of supportive. This is a continuum of housing on Renfrew County Housing property, and the integrated community housing complex, once built, will be owned by Renfrew County Housing Corporation and be part of the portfolio that Renfrew County Housing currently operates. So we are seeking, as per the recommendation, the authorization for the County of Renfrew to build on this property that is currently owned by Renfrew County Housing. And that, Chair, is kind of the summary and certainly can answer questions. Both Craig and I are present for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lapine. So I'd like to get a mover and a seconder to bring the recommendation forward, please. Moved by Councillor Grills, seconded by Councillor Aguirre. Comments and questions? Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Laura, just where's this location? I'm not quite familiar. Is it down near the waterfront or close to the Lake Street? I'm not sure where this is.
Thank you.
Paul, did you want?
Oh,
sure. Chair, if you're and Laura, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let the chair know I do have the map up on my screen, and I'm happy to share it if that helps.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, if Wendy allows me to share, I'll do that right now. Oh, I think you, yeah, Wendy, you just need to enable it, not disable it.
You should have been able to at the start, Paul.
Oh, there we go. I have it now. Thank you. So I'm going to share two. So I'll zoom out just to give you an idea. This is the West End Mall in the city of Pembroke that you see now, and I'll move it and then zoom into the property. These are current facilities that we own right here. This is the vacant parcel of land, and it looks like it was actually designed for this. So if I show you a little bit differently, I can put my guy here, and it just takes a second. And it just takes a second. There we go. So if I turn it, this is the vacant parcel of land beside our current units that we're looking at right now. So this over here is Douglas Street, and this is Lee Street. And you'll see right here where just the corner here, and then the vacant land, and that's actually the West End Mall right there. So in terms of services and other adjacent facilities, that's what we're looking at right there. Craig was able to get the plans from the city, which I thought were interesting, and if I'm allowed to, I'll show those to the group as well.
Yes, please go ahead, Paul.
So I think we got lucky with this one in that looking at this parcel, you'll see that right along here from Lee Street running straight through is the water and sewer. So typically runs through the middle of the street. In our case, we're able to erect these structures right here where the yellow is and tie into the existing water and sewer that was put in place. So, fingers crossed, we don't have any hiccups, but so far in terms of a location, this might be a good fit for this project. And so that's why we're here in front of committee today. So if there's no questions, I just thought that may be helpful for some context for the committee today.
Thank you for that, Paul. Are there any further questions or comments?
Councillor Jacquinot has his hand up. Chair.
Yes, Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, it can.
Just a question. I know that provincially, there's going to be support for more and more housing of this nature, but is there a plan, to distribute this type of classification of housing throughout the communities so that we don't seem to be putting them all under one dome? I'm just wondering if the province has any feelings on that, or whether the county, any other members are feeling, that it becomes very concentrated rather than distributing in other areas, and maybe the location of land, et cetera. I know that we own the property. I'm just wondering if anyone else has any comments about that, Mr. Chair.
Warden Robinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And through you to Councillor Jacquinot and committee. We have a very short timeline to make this housing come to fruition. Certainly, and there's not a lot of money, let's be honest. So if we have to go out and purchase property, we're going to have much less as far as units are concerned. So yes, Councillor Jacquinot, it's not ideal to cluster community housing together. But that being said, and I'm sure that Laura can comment on this, but the number of people that are on a wait list for affordable housing in the Pembroke Laurentian Valley area is immense. It's been a long time since we've had any new community housing in that area. We've had housing in the past few years at Arnprior and in Petawawa. So I think it is really important that we meet the need where the folks are living and want to live. And I think that, the housing units that are there now, they're old. This will be a very attractive building, and hopefully will become part of a more community center for people, especially if Laura's talking about an opportunity there for supports to come in. If there's ways of making it less stigmatized, we will certainly do that. That's certainly always the goal. But right now, with the amount of money that we have, this, in my opinion, is an excellent option, and we will get the best bang for our buck going forward.
Yes, Laura, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And just to build on Warden Robinson's comments, we really had to take a very quick but hard, fast look at what our needs are. And we definitely took into account the seniors housing strategy that was presented to County Council earlier this year, recognized that the highest demand that we have right now in our Renfrew County housing waitlist and program waitlist is for 1 and 2 bedroom units. So we're really trying to meet the need in our community by building something that will really be not just for the folks that need it right now, but also transition we have a lot of people in Renfrew County Housing that will be soon wanting to move to 2-bedroom units or move into an affordable unit as opposed to rent geared to income. So having that close by also provides an opportunity to see that there is different kind of housing available. Rent geared to income housing is different than affordable housing in that rent geared to income is often less cost than the affordable, but there's always a transition point when somebody is moving out of rent geared to income housing into the what we call the market, and having an affordable stepping stone is bridging that big leap from rent geared to income to market rent. But I couldn't echo the warden's comments more. Having a new building in this area will definitely be good for the community as well. And it's very close to some of the services that many people, seniors and disabled adults, would find beneficial with them all close by. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? I see none. I also agree that this is a great opportunity and a great place to build these units, since the land is already available, and recognize again that the timeline is so tight that it's very difficult to look at any further options when we have to have something in place by the end of December. So, Warden Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. And just to remind committee as well that we put an RFP out asking for nonprofit groups to come forward with an opportunity to take the funds that we have and to build on what they already have within the county of Renfrew. We got 0 applications. So that is why what we need to do here is we need to take it over as the Renfrew County Housing Corporation and do what's best for our residents.
Yes, Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to, Laura, I guess. I realize this is, this timeline is tight, and I'm just wondering, do we have anybody in mind with regards to the, design, build, construct, or is there anyone local that we might be looking at to, to try to make this go a little bit quicker? I don't want to know any names. I think it's premature for that right now. But are we hoping that we can get someone fairly local so that transportation is not an issue neither? Thank you.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Reinwald, I think maybe Mr. Kelly would be best to answer that question, because we do have plans and we do have another meeting coming up right after this one that may address that. But if with your permission, Chair, pass this over to Director Kelly.
Yes, not a problem. Mr. Kelly, please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Councillor, through you to through the chair to the council member. Yes, so that is the hope is that with committee approval, Community Services, I guess, Committee and DP, the joint meeting further, if you see the recommendation coming up, will be to move forward with a request for proposal for design build, where we'd have an architect be basically the designer and then follow through with the construction afterwards, so we can tighten up that whole process. So we're not going into tender and such forth. The RFP will talk to innovation, talk to character in the community, talk to energy efficiency, talk to creating something kind of new to the area while maintaining a budget as well. So, it'd be nice to be very innovative at this project. We'll have to see what timing will allow and budget, quite honestly. But that will be the challenge to all the architects that will submit an RFP to go forward. We are beholden to a procurement policy that would suggest that we have to go out to an RFP, of course, and that's what we'll do to stick with our policy. But it's going to be we're asking for them to move mountains in a very short time period. And I think for this project to be successful, and I'll say it again at the next meeting, we sincerely need to be in the ground late spring, early summer, in order for this to be completed by March 23. I mean, things take time. We have to work with the city with site plans and servicing and civil work. So we're a long way away, but this is the first step for sure.
Does that help you, Councillor Reinwald?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other further questions? Councillor Gear.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if we wouldn't get more bang for our buck if we had one-bedroom apartments, because when I'm looking at seniors housing, most seniors are in one bedroom. What is the advantage of 2 bedrooms in a senior housing complex? Is it for added guests, perhaps?
Yes.
Or
Yes, Laura, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Rigier. It has more to do with the supportive housing component. That in supportive housing, it could be that we have somebody who's recovering from surgery who needs the supports within the unit. It could be, and let me say, our minimum is 6 2-bedroom units, but the 2 bedrooms allow for supports to be provided should there be a need for extended supports. But again, you know, we would hope that there's a potential that our architect or whoever comes back with the tendering may have some other suggestions as well. And we do agree that seniors often need 1 bedroom, but we also know that in order to build something that meets the supportive housing criteria, that we have to have room for the supports to be provided. So disabled adults often need an extra bedroom for overnight care or for care of some kind to come in. So we just want to make sure that we cover all those groups and provide all those services. But we do recognize that 1-bedroom units is also ideal. And maybe in the end, we may end up with some additional units that are 1 bedroom. I don't know for sure. It depends on the process, the tendering process. But to meet the supportive housing, it's often 2 bedrooms. And we really need to meet the ministry's requirement to have supportive housing, have as much of those supports built in. I'm not sure if that answers your questions,
yes,
Councillor,
thank you.
but we understand too the 1-bedroom units make sense for single people or couples, but there's often greater needs than that when you're dealing with seniors and disabled people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So the date of the next meeting will be at the call of the chair. Can I get a mover and a seconder for adjournment? Moved by Councillor Reinwald, seconded by Councillor Grills. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. So then we will move right into our community services meeting. No?
The next meeting, which is a combined meeting of community services and development of property. So we're still awaiting guests or members of development of property to join for the second meeting, which is scheduled for 2 p.m.
Sean, can you put this?
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call this special joint meeting of Community Services and Property and Development to order at 2:01 p.m. I'm not sure, Rose or Wendy, has roll call been taken?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's been taken.
Thank you very much. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we will move on to the report, and I would ask that Director Lapine please update the committee and present the report.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members of committee. Nice to see you all again. Before I start my report, which actually begins on page 3 of your electronic package, I just want to inform both committees that we had a special meeting of the Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors just before or ahead of this meeting. At that meeting, the Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors authorized the County of Renfrew to build on lands that are currently owned by Renfrew County Housing Corporation. So I wanted to make both these committees aware today that we had that meeting ahead of this one. So we have received authorization from the Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors to utilize lands that are currently owned by the Renfrew County Housing to build property that I'll speak to if I may go ahead and read the resolution. Chair, may I go ahead with that item, please?
Yes, Director Lapine, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So resolution item number 1, it's affordable supportive housing in Renfrew County. So the recommendation is that the Community Services Committee and the Development and Property Committee recommend to County Council that staff be directed to proceed with a request for proposal for a design build project for new housing units to be located at Lee Street and Douglas Street in the city of Pembroke on lands owned by the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. And further, that staff bring back the housing proposal to County Council for approval. And further, that the housing units, once completed, form part of the Renfrew County Housing Corporation housing assets. And further, that County Council pass a bylaw at a future meeting of County Council to authorize the warden and clerk to execute the contribution agreement and all other related documents between the County of Renfrew and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So in terms of background, at our meeting earlier today, the authorization to use lands to build integrated community housing complex was passed. This is property located on Lee Street and Douglas Street in Pembroke. The County of Renfrew is taking a leadership role in addressing the housing crisis in Renfrew County by adding additional units to the rental market and by designating them affordable and supportive. The County of Renfrew is eligible for funding from the province of Ontario to build affordable supportive housing in the Renfrew County catchment area. It is our intention to build a complex that will house a minimum of 6 two-bedroom housing units on Renfrew County Housing Corporation property that is located on Lee Street in Pembroke. And the expectation is that it will be completed by March 31st, 2023. By housing this complex on RCHC property where there's currently rent geared to income housing, this property will extend the continuum of community housing. So the intention is to build 6 two-bedroom units that will be fully accessible and can accommodate seniors and adults with disabilities. The units will fit the criteria for affordable and supportive housing with space to accommodate some supports and also extend that to other tenants who are living in the Renfrew County housing community. So we're talking about building a complex that would also have within these housing units another space that would house an office and possibly a kitchen that could allow for supports to be brought to this integrated community housing complex that could include meal preparation, office for health unit, other support services, PSWs, other people that could bring services to the people that need it the most, as opposed to requiring people to leave to attend services. And once this is built and completed, this will form part of the Renfrew County Housing Corporation portfolio and will be operated by Renfrew County Housing Corporation. That's the description in a nutshell. There are more descriptors to this, as I think it's appropriate, maybe, Chair, if I hand this over to Director Kelly to speak to the piece about the RFP and that process, if you're agreeable to that.
Maybe what I'll do first, Director, is that I'll get a mover and a seconder to get the recommendation on the floor, please. So could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Reinwald, seconded by Councillor Lynch. And then Mr. Kelly, if you would like to add your input, and maybe Mr. Morrow, you can put up the maps that you showed us at Renfrew County Housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So following my little response to Laura's comments, Paul will show you the maps of where the proposed location is in Pembroke. So the RFP was mentioned. What we've discussed already is that the units will be proposed to be located on Lee Street at Douglas Street, which is near the West End Mall in Pembroke, on lands that RCHC currently owns and housing is currently located. So the intent is to go forward as soon as possible with a request for proposal following our procurement policy for an architect or firm, I should say, to go forward with the design build. So the architect will be responsible for designing and then continuing on with the build using their proponents or their contacts through their tendering process. It's a much smoother process and allows for a continuum of control from the architect in concert with us, of course, as we monitor this as it goes forward. Very short timeline. We really need to get it in the ground this summer, late this spring, this summer, to be finished by March of 2023. And by the time we do all the civil work and drainage and site plans and all that with the city, we'll be tight as it is. So it's important to find a firm through an open and transparent process that we can work with and have had experience working with in the past. Again, the goal is to look for those firms that can bring innovation, can bring some new ideas, can talk about efficiency, can talk about a minimum of 6 2-bedroom units, perhaps with our dollars that we're allocating to this, which I believe, did we talk about dollars? Are we allowed to talk about dollars and talk about budget? It's between $1 and $2 million is that we're spending. And almost directly between $1 and $2 million. And that should get us at least 6 units plus this one additional. And if the right firms bring their A game, we're hoping to see if we can squeeze a little more into that area, and again make them fully efficient, fully accessible, and fit with the community that it surrounds that. I would hope, though, that through the RP process and through the selection process, that we are looking at something new for the neighborhood, something neat, something new for the county, and we'll see how that plays out as we move forward. Chair, I'll ask Paul maybe, and I'm sure he will ask him to show the maps that he showed RCHC prior to this meeting.
Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. So you see here the property, and I'll just provide a little bit of context. This is the property we're looking at here. This would be the West End Mall. So you're looking at this parcel here that is currently owned by Renfrew County Housing Corporation. I think there's some value in reiterating some of the comments provided from the warden from our meeting earlier today. And that is, just want to inform committee that this was our plan B. Just remind committee that we went out to an RFP and we had asked for applications from the not-for-profit sector. So committee should be aware that we received 0 responses. So again, we did some some searching and found that this property was close to being development ready. So if I were to show the committee a different perspective of the property, and turn it around, this is the parcel we're looking at on the corner of Douglas and Lee Street. So if I may, I'll show you a different plan view of the property. And I will go to this one here, share, servicing right there. So like I had indicated before, we are have an advantage with this property in that the water and the sewer, as you can see right here, runs right behind where we would propose to put the units that would face onto Douglas Street. Chair, if I may, I'll stop sharing now.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the plan and the background information. Are there any questions or comments from committee? Councillor Lynch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the diagram, I'm assuming the units will be one beside the other, not on top of each other.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Yes, it is anticipated they will be a single story, 6-unit single story. We are looking at different models just for our own. We're not designing it, but we have a design in mind. So it'd be just a singular, I'll call bungalow style with 6 units. Well, to be frank, we don't want to get into situations where they're not accessible. As soon as we had stairways or sunken rooms or stair elevators or anything else, that just creates a whole level of different issues for us and not quite where we want to meet with the supportive seniors housing and or disabled adults that we're trying to target with these new units.
No, my thought was that the dollar value would be that maybe there's a zoning bylaw that you couldn't have a 4-story apartment building with all the amenities to that. And I guess the cost would be astronomical for that. Just more people, more units than having 6 flat. Thank you.
Again, through you, Chair.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Precisely, Councillor Lynch. Excuse me. We're working within a budget, and we've allocated in our minds a per unit price, and 6 to 8 units times that per unit price finds us to where the budget needs to be.
Mr. Morrow, did you have your hand up?
No, thank you, Chair. Mr. Kelly answered the question.
Thank you. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proximity to where the units are going to be built obviously abuts onto the buildings behind. What is the square footage of the units, and will there be a backyard space for accessibility for people to be there?
Director Kelly, please.
Thank you again, through you, Chair, to Councillor Jacquinot. At this moment, without any amendments to the proposed site plan, the City of Pembroke's minimum dwelling unit area for a 2-bedroom unit would be 700 square feet. So the minimum dwelling size for 2-bedroom is 700 square feet. So with that in mind, we will keep that in mind as we move forward on the design, or the architect will. The City of Pembroke also has certain obligations with this type of building that requires an amount of green space or backyard space. And we acknowledge that there is green space being taken away from this development, or this community, should call it development. There is a community on Lee Street, and we are looking at other ways of incorporating different green space or different ways to utilize the trail system that's right behind us and some of the properties that we may or may not own in that area to bring more to replicate the green space that they're losing into the community as we move forward. Again, I'm being hesitant and vague because we haven't designed it yet. So that's the challenge for the architect to bring forward to us when we go out to the RFP.
Mr. Morrow?
I was going to, thank you, Chair, and I was going to articulate Craig's very last comment. Much of this will be fleshed out when we bring in the architect and have them design the facility. And, you know, our goal is to provide as much green space and ensure that they are as accessible as possible. But again, that's why we're going to engage an architect to help us with that process.
Councillor Sweet, please. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and through you to perhaps either Craig or Laura. We'll see what this particular initiative comes in as far as the request for proposal from a funding point of view. Is there a cap, number one, coming in from the province on the amount of funding that may come forward? Number one, and number two, this is affordable type of housing. Is there a cap on the rent, as there has been in the past, still through sort of 75% of central mortgage and housing, 2-bedroom rents in the immediate area? Is that still a situation that's in place? And do I understand, and I know it's hard to say this because you haven't got the actual dollar amount in at this point from the request for proposal, but is this, will there be a requirement for matching dollars as part of this particular proposal going forward?
Director Lapine.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Sweet. I'll tackle as many of those as possible. So the funding is through the province of Ontario. We have information right now on how much funding we are eligible to receive, and there is a chance that there could be other funding down the road. We can't rule it in or rule it out, but we're always looking to increase funding. So if opportunities exist, we'll definitely pursue it. I would say that in terms of the affordable rent has two parts to it. It has to be no more than 80% of what the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation sets as the market rent for the bedroom size in our community. So that's part one. And part two is that people who are renting in affordable housing are not to be spending more than 30% of their income towards rent. So those are the two affordable rent components. There's also a supportive housing component to this as well. So it's affordable and supportive, which gives us a wide range of opportunities for people who may need it. And I think maybe some of the other questions that you asked may be best answered by Director Kelly, and I can certainly expand on anything more that you asked. Hopefully that answers what you were looking for.
Thank you, Laura.
Mr. Kelly, please.
Through you, Chair. So I'm going to be very cautious on looking at my own boss here. There is funding to be announced, and there are certain obligations that we have promised the province that we can and cannot say. And I think it's best that I'll touch this with his fingers. But there is a cap that we'll have to be mindful of in terms of matching. There was a matching component when we went out to the nonprofits or the not-for-profit groups. As this is a project of the County of Renfrew, we will not be matching funds unless the project comes back at an amount past that cap. I would suggest that staff, myself, and Laura and Paul will come back to this committee and committees and suggest that this is over our cap. How would you like us to proceed? Or additional 2 units will cost you this much more. Shall we proceed?
Thank you. If I could, Chair, this is a kind of an exciting project for the County of Renfrew to go into 2022 to begin with. There's obviously a huge need for affordable housing in our immediate area. So all I can say is draw on some experience that I had in my own municipality, and that was a difficult situation of trying to make the shoe fit with the amount of money that was available to us on the seniors apartment building in Petawawa. So that's why I asked the question: what is the cap on that? Is there a contribution as well coming in from the city of Pembroke in terms of any reduction in terms of property taxes as there is in my community, as far as multi-res down to residential as a contribution towards this project? Is that being discussed, or do you have to take that back to your council, Ed, or is that even part of the contribution agreement that's part and parcel of the province of Ontario?
Mr. Morrow, did you want to start on that?
Well, Chair, I see Mr. Foss is on the call, and he was a big part of that change that Mayor Sweet speaks to on all those projects, whether it's Petawawa or the Arnprior ones, where there was a change in the tax rate, I believe. And I think Jeff's probably best to speak to that, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Foss.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to all members of the committee. Yeah, quite right. We had a program in place under the Invest in Affordable Housing Plan, which required a contribution agreement which included a tax classification reduction for multi-res facilities down to the residential tax rate. And that was part of the program that was in place for the Invest in Affordable Housing program. This program is different and does not require such an agreement for tax reduction as the former one did. And so that has not been one of the principles that we've moved forward on. As Paul mentioned earlier in the discussion today, in fact, we had a proposal where we were looking for partners from the nonprofit community in order to gain access to the development of these housing units, which we didn't have anyone really participate in. And so we don't have anything like that moving forward. We have no requirements to do that, not to say that couldn't be something that we looked at as this project moved through the process. Thank you.
Councillor Giacono, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Certainly, we'd be discussing that with council. I know that through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, there's a directive at present by the provincial government to suggest that business tax be reduced by 35% in the next little while. Whether that'll happen or not, I mean, municipalities have been hit very hard during COVID. Reducing the business tax by 35% quotient will certainly put some strain on other parts of our budgets. Whether that's going to happen or not, I mean, this may be in unison with what we're talking about. But 10 out of 444 municipalities in the province at present are looking at this reduction in small business tax. So I'll certainly be bringing back some of this conversation to our council for discussion. And I mean, we want to be supportive, of course, because this type of project benefits everyone throughout the county, the people that are living there, as well as, the construction trades and people that are working. So we'll be getting back to you on that one. Thank you.
Councillor Sweet.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, I was not necessarily asking if they were going to do that. I was just wanting to find out if in actual fact this is part of the actual overall contribution agreement coming in from the province. But I think Jeff has explained this is a different program from the previous programs. And so I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to know what the rules are with regards to the contribution coming in from the provincial government. Thank you.
Mr. Foss.
And thank you, Chair. Since the time where we entered into these contribution agreements in Arnprior for 2 facilities under the Invest in Affordable Housing program and the one in Petawawa, of course, the province has stepped in with some legislation around new multi-residential construction. And I failed to mention that in my earlier comments that of course, now even within the city of Pembroke, any new multi-residential construction taking place comes through with a tax class of 1.0, which makes it automatically equal to the residential tax rate, whereas previously for the county of Renfrew, and currently our multi-residential tax rate for existing multi-res properties is 1.9346. So I believe that this property as new construction within the city of Pembroke would qualify under that new multi-res tax class. and receive that tax ratio of 1.0 or an amount that is equal to the residential tax rate. So apologize, wanted to get my mind around some of the changing legislation in the program. Although it is a totally different program, I believe the new regulations would supersede that and set the tax ratio for this property at 1.0. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Morrow, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to remind members of committee and council that, the original conversation that we had and why we're not getting into the details with respect to the funding and that particular piece is, we did discuss it in closed previously, hence the reason we're not bringing it back forward here today and getting into the details of the funding. Again, as committee or members of council are aware that this is funding that was committed to us by the province of Ontario, although it was done under a bit of a gag order from the province in terms of announcements. So the details of which we are not at liberty to discuss unless we move into a closed session at this point in time. So again, there's no additional funds that we had not spoke about previously with all of members of council. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light on kind of our coyness as we speak about some of the funding today. So I will leave it at that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Any further questions or comments? I see none, so I will call for the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that concludes our meeting for today. The next meeting of the committees will be, well, actually the next meeting will be the inaugural meeting tomorrow, December the 14th. So look forward to seeing everybody there. And I will need a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Sweet, seconded by Councillor Aguirre. All in favor? And that's carried. We are adjourned.